Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. Talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook.com/Rogue Wave Podcast and Twitch.tv/Rogue Wave Podcast. Go like and share our page. Download our podcast immediately following this live stream on Apple Podcast, Google, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud. You name it, we're out there. Go to roguewavepodcast.com to subscribe to us on Apple Podcast, or just search Rogue Wave Podcast, W-A-V, in order to get us and be a subscriber, like our page, share it, comment, all kinds of cool things. And that would really help us out, so we really appreciate it. Tonight, Batman Returns. Well, Michael Keaton might. And we do a Batman Returns retro review. 2 birds, 1 stone. Gotta love it. I'm your host, Michael Dolce. As always, joined by my co-host extraordinaire, the Lord of the live stream himself, Mr. Hassan Godwin. How you doing, sir?
That's another Wednesday. Another wonderful Wednesday in COVID. In COVID country.
And it's going to be for the well, look, on the East Coast, so far everything is opening up. Phase 3 opened up. Our cases are low. I'm gonna stay very state centric and
don't do that. Don't do it.
Be very, very thrilled about New York. The rest of the country, we'll see.
All right.
The Loch Ness monster was trending. I mean, that's big.
Trending how though? Why?
There was a new photo that somebody found. So look.
Did they find a photo or did they take a photo?
They took a photo on somebody's holiday trip, and they think it could be the Loch Ness monster. I mean, who had that on their bingo card? People had Thanos on their bingo card. He's next.
That's why you don't play bingo. That's why you don't play Apocalypse Bingo. It's stupid.
It's yeah.
Well, what's the next bad thing? Especially when you put all your money down on murder hornets and that
that really fizzled out, right? Those murder hornets.
It turns out to be social upheaval. You lose a lot of money doing that. So
I always come in second on bingo. I never win the pot.
That's why you don't play. That's why you should never play the game.
So we call this segment Rogue Rage, all the latest rage in the pop culture world. I wanted to shift over to it because on the topic of bad news, we've got some good, we got some bad, we got some great. Which one do you want to do first?
It's always best to do the bad news first.
All right, we will, but I wish you would have said good because it segues into our great news, but that's okay. Joel Schumacher.
You always want to get the bad news out of the way and pay.
Normally, I would agree with you. Joel Schumacher.
That's why you shouldn't be. That's why you shouldn't be gimmick driven, Michael. You should not be gimmick driven.
I'm not. Who says I'm gimmick? I don't know what you're talking about.
You are somewhat gimmick driven.
I deny.
Do the bad news. Do the bad news. You deny. I deny that I resemble what I'm denying. do the bad news.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know. You know what? Yeah. Let's be fair. I don't even know what I'm talking about. But you are a little gimmick driven. But okay, go ahead.
I deny it, but you're probably right. All right, Joel Schumacher, director of Batman films and Lost Boys, dies at 80. From Variety reported at first. He was a costume designer turned director of films such as St. Elmo's Fire, Lost Boys, and Falling Down, as well as 2 Batman films. Died in New York City on Monday morning after a year-long battle with cancer. He was 80. It's the only consolation, I guess, is that it's not COVID related. I've noticed a lot of celebrities have passed away this year, and it's not, COVID related. So that's a good news within the bad news. Schumacher brought his fashion background to directing a run of stylish films throughout the 80s and 90s. They were not always critically acclaimed, but continued to be well loved by audiences by capturing the feel of that era. Most notably for us, he was handed the reins of Batman when Tim Burton exited Warner Brothers' Cape Crusaders series. More on that later. After 2 enormously successful films, the first movie by Schumacher, Batman Forever, starring Val Kilmer, Tommy Lee Jones, Jim Carrey, and Nicole Kidman, grossed more than $300 worldwide. The second was with George Clooney and is the forgettable, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is the very forgettable and almost killed the entire comic book movie industry, 1997's Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Say what you will, and I will say a lot in our Batman Returns retro review in defense of Batman Forever after rewatching Batman Returns. Batman Forever made a lot of money. and it was at the height of the Jim Carrey movie era, I would say, and had a lot of contributions in terms of fans of the Adam West 1960s show having something up on screen that resembles that.
I do not believe it was Schumacher's. A lot of people blame Schumacher for it. I think there's a lot of extenuating circumstances and contributing factors to the state of that movie in particular, because Batman Forever was pretty good. It was a passable experience, right? And Batman and Robin, it wasn't really. So now there's a guy named Jordan Burrell. He's a filmmaker. Yeah. And he used to be on It Came From the Radio, the other show that I was on many years ago.
You were on another show.
Yes, I was. I get around. I do many shows. I'm doing a show right now.
You're really out and about. You're really.
I'm not out anywhere.
Moving and shaking, buddy.
People everybody uses me because they know I'm home. But anyway,
not for long, baby. Phase 3.
Yeah.
You weren't frequenting indoor restaurants before COVID, so
no. When they have a vaccine that they can give you at the door of the restaurant, then you'll see the Lord of the Radio wandering around again. Yeah. But right now, but anyway, so we had his ongoing thing about the Dark Knight. Yeah. I did not like The Dark Knight. He thought it was one of the greatest movies ever. I did not like it. I thought it was just a terrible Batman movie. I thought it was a good movie, a terrible Batman. I've said it on this show many times. And it was kind of a rivalry. And we went on about that. And one Christmas, I think, for whatever reason, I sat down and watched Batman and Robin again. And then I spent the rest of that month apologizing to Jordan about. I'm like, okay, yeah, you know what? Let me explain. I didn't like Batman. I didn't like The Dark Knight because I didn't think it was a great Batman movie. In particular, I think it's a great movie. I just think it's kind of like the same argument that you have about Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Sure. Where the Batman's almost completely ineffective in the entire film, and he doesn't save the woman he loves. He doesn't save the commissioner. He doesn't save, he's ineffective in the entire film. And I didn't appreciate it. I kind of like my Batman, solving problems. And, it's the same thing with Man of Steel. For some reason, the DCEU had this, well, not Batman, Nolan's Batman wasn't in the DCEU. But it was the start of this trend where, remember in Man of Steel, Superman didn't save anyone. Right. Some of why you tune into Superman, there's some visceral part of you that tunes into Superman to see him save people from impossible accidents. Right. Things that for a fact no human being would survive on their own. Right. So when that was missing from it, there was something drastically missing from Superman. I say the same thing about The Dark Knight. When he fails to do amazing feats of bravery, it kind of takes something away from the Batman thing. Yeah. But after seeing Batman and Robin,
you know what's funny? It was 97 when it came out, and I think when it came out, it was the summertime. I just didn't have time to see it when it first came out, and then I heard such god awful things about it that I didn't want to see it. Yeah. I've seen it since in pieces on cable. But I can honestly tell you, I think I saw it in college too. I definitely saw it in college. I can honestly tell you though, I've never sat through in one sitting and seen the whole thing, nor do I ever want to. I just the
only voice of reason at the time when that movie came out was my friend Michael Vaccaro, and he was like, "I don't want to see this movie. This looks terrible." And I somehow, and especially according to the way he tells the story, somehow I cajoled him into seeing this film. I don't know what I did, but it was, it was a powerful tool of blackmail to get him to see this film. And I do remember insisting that we go see it. I do remember saying something like, "How bad could it be?" Yeah. Something fatalistic like that. And then I do remember halfway through the film realizing I was never going to live it down because it was that bad while watching it. Now, again, shitty thing for us to do is mention all this in the eulogy for
I was going to wrap it
Schumacher.
up by saying Lost Boys is one of the greatest vampire films of all time, and is
As I say,
amazing.
Batman
So
and Robin isn't. They're extenuating circumstances.
That's the low point. That's the low point.
Well, they're extenuating circumstances for him.
Yeah.
Lost Boys, however, when I was a kid, will not soapbox on this. When I was a kid and went to see that movie in the theaters, that was one of the greatest movie experiences I've ever had.
I can understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, rest in peace. I didn't know he was in kind of turmoil for a year. That's too bad.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. 80 years old is a good life. So, not to say
that's for us. We could say that. We say that to make ourselves feel better. I'm sure he would have rather 90.
It's funny. Everybody... Somebody once said that to me. They're like in their 80s, and that exact quote. And he's like, "No, I want to keep living." He's like,
"Yeah,
I'm 84, but until you get here." So yes, when you're
when you give him like you had a good run. It's like it says who.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Wait till you get here, and you're going to want to keep going.
Exactly.
All right. That was the bad news. Here's the good news. We actually have
now you get your segue. See how it works. Now you're going to
comic book related content coming. Warrior Nun season 1 coming to Netflix in July. It's actually being released July 2nd.
You didn't mean to rhyme that, but you just did.
I did. I didn't mean to, but that's just how it works out.
Gotcha.
And it is from the creator of Continuum, Simon Barry. I'm happy to announce we will have him on the show in 2 weeks, talking about Warrior Nun, and we'll also talk about Continuum and all awesome things that he's got, along with major announcements coming next week and our super surprise guest next week. It's going to be very exciting, but we get to talk about Warrior Nun, which is based off of a comic book. Lost who's based off of. It's really obscure. It's like an Antarctic Press graphic novel comic book. It's about a order of religious nuns who are. It's kind of like Buffy meets Catholicism, I guess is the best way to put it. And it's kind of cool. So, and the trailer came out. I looked at it. It looks really, really awesome. I watched it because I know we have him coming on in 2 weeks. However, I was really, really impressed with that. So that's exciting. Umbrella Academy season 2 is hitting at the end of July. So that's pretty exciting as well, too. That's also based off the Dark Horse comic by Gerard Way. Tried to get Gerard Way on the show. Not doing any press at the moment, which is unfortunate. Originally, he was going to because he was going to. My Chemical Romance got back together. So we were in talks to have him on the show to talk about Umbrella Academy and also My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
For some reason, that tour got canceled. I can't imagine why. So
there's so little going on. What's the deal with that?
But we'll have it. We'll have him on. And then finally, Doom Patrol, streaming the first 3 episodes of season 1 for free right now. And then tomorrow, I think the 25th, it's being dropped on the DC streaming service. I'll bite because I've heard good things about it. I'm going to go get HBO Max because I think it's going to be on HBO Max. But next week, what we're going to do is we're going to do an Umbrella Academy versus Doom Patrol face-off next week. We're gonna just do a quick little because that seems to be the two comparables for the series. So
yeah. As a quick aside, HBO Max.
Yeah.
You're already paying for HBO.
Yes.
So now you got to pay for their streaming service.
Apparently, it's an easy slide into, is what I've heard. I don't know if there's a discount. I'm not sure what the deal is.
I don't know what's the easy slide into.
I don't know.
How do they know that you're okay?
I'm not sure. I will research this leading up to next week's show.
Is it on the Amazon platform?
It is. You can watch Doom Patrol for like $2, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean HBO Max. Is it on? Can you? Because you can get CBS.
Yes, I would imagine yes. You can download the app on any platform that you view apps on. So for me, it's like Apple TV. We can get HBO Max.
Okay.
So.
All righty.
But it's streaming. So the first 3 episodes are actually streaming on YouTube right now. So you can go on YouTube, see the first 3 episodes. And that is as of Monday. This past month.
I've seen the first season. So, yeah.
Of Doom Patrol. Okay,
but that's good. Yeah, that's good news for the people who haven't seen it.
Yeah, no. So I'm gonna check that out. Normally, we don't necessarily dive too deep into the streaming world just because we just don't. But yay, content. So that was the good news. We got content. We got some comic book related content to talk about. Very excited. The last bit of news, this is the great news. The Dark Knight Returns. Michael Keaton may play Batman on the big screen again. He is reportedly in talks to reprise his role in the long-simmering Flash film. The Wrap reports that Keaton would play an elder Batman in the Flashpoint timeline created when the Flash travels back in time to stop his mother's murder. It's been more than 30 years since Keaton first donned the Dark Knight's cowl for the Tim Burton-directed Batman film in 1989. He would return to the role in Batman Returns before bowing out for future sequels. Kind of ironic. He's experienced a career resurgence in recent years after starring in Birdman, which is, well, again, kind of ironic. And then he ended up joining Spider-Man universe as Vulture. So, and he's teased to reprise that role in the upcoming Venom sequel. So back in the day, Keaton, because the general consensus, and this is, again, a great lesson for any Gen Zers or millennials that we might be listening to our show or streaming our show. What was once the perceived notion 30 years ago of the way things are changes over time. 30 years ago, you didn't want to do a superhero film because you would then be typecast and never get a serious role. Now it's almost a rite of passage that you take on some sort of superhero role. It's like a coveted spot now to be in a Marvel film.
It's kind of a good way to be remembered forever.
It is. It is iconic, and it's just so funny because he didn't want to do the sequel to Batman originally, and he held out for more money before doing Batman. Before finally being like, okay, for the bigger paycheck, I'll do Batman Returns.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
And then he used Burton's exit as an excuse to get himself out of it, I think.
Right. And ironically, right, Birdman, and then, which obviously is not a superhero film necessarily, but it's as close to it. And now he's jumping back into the superhero
kind
genre.
Of a mock of a superhero.
Right.
It's like not an allegory, but a
metaphor.
Yeah, I guess so, or
simile.
Simile, would not visually, but I mean, that good word. It's sort of a nod to him having played an iconic superhero character.
Yeah.
Tragically though, for Birdman, that was the only good thing his character had done.
Right.
And Michael Keaton's done a lot more than just Batman, so
yeah,
he's not in that kind of danger. But it would be very interesting to see that. Supposedly, it's going to be a return to that Batman universe, to the Burton Batman universe.
Yeah,
will be. I don't know about this multiverse thing. Everybody's embracing it so that they can use it as an excuse to keep hitting us in the head with the nostalgia hammer. And I don't disagree with it. I think but
it also serves a purpose, though, right? I mean, having the multiverse allows.
I didn't say it didn't serve a purpose. I just said I'm getting tired of it.
Oh,
I didn't say. I never said it. I never said it didn't serve a purpose. I just said it's just kind of. It's like, okay, again, we're gonna go back again. Please, just give us something. I would like if they put as much effort into giving us something new as they did. I don't mind nostalgia. I like nostalgia. I like the past. The past is better than the present. Okay, in many ways. But maybe work on making this now be a better past in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Because what are we gonna look back on in the future if we're always looking back now? What's there gonna be for us to be nostalgic about in the future?
There's a great
lyric. Be nostalgic about when we were nostalgic.
There was a great lyric in the Pearl Jam in the last Pearl Jam record too, where he just talks about the past is the present and the present's the same. On and on. Let me see if I have it right here. Yeah, there's oh, here it is. Sorry. Yeah. Expecting perfection leaves a lot to ignore when the past is the present and the future's no more. When every tomorrow is the same as before. I mean, we literally live. I love that lyric because I feel like that is.
Did you just hijack my philosophical statement with Pearl Jam lyrics?
Yes.
Did you just?
But I love it because I really do feel that is the state of time. Time has no meaning. There was a great article I read too many, many months ago about why we feel time is speeding up. And it's because it literally has no basis anymore because of all the content that we're able to absorb as if it's present day. There is no, I mean, when we grew up, the 60s and the 70s were like this far off, and this is my own interpretation, but I'm assuming other people feel this way, felt so long ago and so far away. Because it was an era.
I grew up in the 70s.
It was an era. Well, you grew up, but you really didn't. You grew up in the 80s and 90s, really. I mean, I would sit there and say, you have memories of the 70s. I'm not saying you don't have memories of the 70s, but I mean, I would think that your true formative years was like late 70s, all of the 80s.
Yes, I would not.
I think that's a fair statement, right?
Yeah, I think I was 8 in 1980. So yeah. Definitely.
Right. It's the same thing. Like I was born in the 70s, but it was, I mean, the 80s and 90s, the full decades are when are really my coming of age. And even I'd say, post 86 is when I started, it was right around that like 6, 7, 8-year-old, time frame. So really the 90s even more so than the 80s.
Yeah. I mean, look, I miss the 90s. I miss a lot about the 90s. I don't miss like my life in the 90s so much as what we had as entertainment.
But we had time-stamped entertainment. Yeah, we had time-stamped entertainment. I mean, it was like, okay, you're listening to 70s music. Oh, you're listening to 80s music. Like that's weird. You should be listening to today's music. Now there's no such thing. There's just music, right? Music that existed in the 70s is as accessible and as relevant as it was
like I said, tools of convenience,
right?
You do lose something for the convenience,
Right.
Something is always lost when something becomes easier, because it was harder back then. It was harder to even find out what the hell a song was. If you heard a song and you were like, what song is this? You had to wait for the DJ to say it if he did or didn't.
Right.
Or you had to, or there would be music. I remember. Oh my God! I remember trying so hard to track down a song I heard on a Pepsi commercial in the 80s.
Right.
It was an actual task. It took weeks and weeks to find out which song that was. And I won't tell you which song. But but it was like it was sort of an ordeal. It was an adventure.
Yeah.
And now you could just hit any various app on your phone and know exactly what you're listening to almost immediately.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that are gained, but then there's stuff that's lost. Because,
and I won't say what's good or bad. I won't say what's better or worse. Because obviously, look, the Gen Zs and millennials don't have the reference points that we do to say that this is better or worse. They only have what they grew up with, which is the phone. They literally, the Gen Zers especially, are the generation that grew up, with the phone. My kids, I mean, I can't even tell you, my 2-year-old can operate this phone. Like, it's crazy. Like, she's like, she just goes on. She's like, boom, monkeys, YouTube, scrolls, finds the monkeys in the, I mean, she can't type yet and she doesn't know how to spell, but she can see it, boom, click it, and it's on. I'm like, holy crap. Like there are 60-year-olds that can't even do what she just did, It's like, so again, I won't say what's better or worse. It's just different. It's a different time to live in now.
Yes,
to your point.
No, that's something we can easily agree on. To the now time is very different from then. But all I was saying, to bookend it is, it will be interesting to see 10 years from now. Hopefully we'll still be here 10 years from now. But it'll be interesting to see.
We'll be beautiful, but we'll be here. I mean,
all right, okay.
I'll be shooting.
It will be interesting to see what we're going to look back on. Because we're looking back so often, and we're falling back on looking back for so many things, because I guess of fear, or because of viability of financial viability. Maybe no one's interested in anything new now.
No, I don't think that's the case. I think that not to keep going off on this because but it is a great topic. I've thought about this. I think that back then you were able to allow things to develop organically within a bubble before it gets exposed to the outside world, and then people can react to it. Like, I mean, I'll use the 90s rock scene and the 90s hip hop scene too, actually. I mean, those were allowed to vegetate for lack of a better word, I know there's a better word for it, to kind of develop at its own pace with trials, with errors, where you could make a mistake and it's not a mistake, it's an experiment, and it's allowed to grow and develop, and then all of a sudden it becomes this thing that everyone else becomes aware of, and it becomes elevated. But nowadays, you're not allowed that time and space to allow things to develop and to develop organically, because you have to have it now. Everything has to be now, and it has
there's
to be
too
this.
much stuff. There's not enough time for everybody to hear everything. That's so
no, yeah. There's something to be said about nowadays. The formula is all people have, because there's no time. There's no, bands used to get signed. Bruce Springsteen put out like 4 albums before he became famous. That's never going to happen again. Now it's literally,
you're never going to have the opportunity to do that many.
No,
to
you have to
not
be famous
successful
before you
that
get
many
signed.
times.
Right, you have to be famous before you have to release something before you can before you'd even get signed. And then there's always the debate of whether that's even good or bad. Filmmakers now, look at the iPhone commercial. You can literally make a film on your iPhone, whereas, look at this crappy production we have. I couldn't do this 5 years ago. Like even that, is a testament to how technology has changed things. All right. Let us know what you think. I think we're all excited about the idea of Michael Keaton returning. However, let's do the time warp thing. Let's do a retro review. When we come back, the last time Keaton was Batman Returns, 1992. One of the weirdest effing movies I've ever rewatched in my entire life. We'll do a retro review when we return. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, talking comics, movies, TV, and pop culture every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook.com/Rogue Wave Podcast. Go to RogueWavePodcast.com to subscribe to our podcast. All right. This segment, we've done it a few times this summer or I guess spring, I should say, because of a certain COVID-related quarantine, and there's not been a lot of new content. This one, however, is one that was requested by a friend of the show, Tone Bays, who's a very famous Bitcoin analyst, and he's a good friend of mine. I went to college with him, and he's like, "You got to do this one. You got to do this one." And I said, we at the time there was so much new content, there's no time to do it. However, it was released in June. It is, I don't want to say it's one of the most controversial superhero movies out there, but it is definitely one of the weirdest. I think hands down one of the weirdest films. Helmed by Tim Burton, it is the sequel to the smash 1989 hit Batman. It is Batman Returns, starring Keaton, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Christopher Walken and Danny DeVito. First of all, what an eclectic cast! Danny DeVito, to me now, will just always be Frank from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So, retro watching this, I can't help but feel like that's Frank as the Penguin. There was something to that extent there. I totally forgot Christopher Walken was even in the movie. It really wasn't even a Batman movie. Let's just get right into
Christopher
it.
Walken was technically the villain, the main villain of the film.
Right.
And he wasn't even, I don't think he was even a nostalgia character. He's not even a DC nostalgia villain.
Right. It was just jam-packed with, there was a lot to take in. Not to mention the absurdity of some of the set dressing, the Red Triangle Gang. My first thought after rewatching this film, and literally, I have not rewatched this film because I didn't like it when it first came out. I saw it in theaters. I might have seen it once again, maybe in college, and I haven't watched it in 30 years. Maybe not 30 years, because that would be, it literally can't be 30 years. I have probably not watched it in 20 years. Get easy. And my first thought after watching this film is anybody that is upset with Batman Forever for being too campy, Michelle Pfeiffer literally holds some woman up against the wall. complains that she makes it too easy for people like the Batman to come save her, and then does backflips out of the alleyway in what is the most bizarre sequences. I thought I was watching The Simpsons. I mean, I literally thought I was watching The Simpsons. There was a Simpsons episode, I think maybe the Hank Scorpio one, where he's battling. It just brought up shades of like, this is cartoonish. This is absolutely cartoonish.
Well, yeah. The first one was campy and cartoony. I don't know. It gets so much.
It was campy at Jace. It was campy at Jace, the first one.
Oh, man,
this one is
parsing. You parse too much. It was campy.
It was,
you know?
But it was.
It was campy.
It was not campy enough to the point where it was over a certain level of where it escaped total believability. This one, I mean, literally just people everywhere grabbing people. I mean, this was the 1960s show I'm watching, except it's also a Tim Burton movie, and it's just really friggin' weird. Go ahead. Sorry.
There's nothing. I got nothing. I got nothing to add to that. I remember not liking it too much when I first saw it, as much as I liked the original Batman. The problem was, it wasn't a problem. The original Batman, I love the original Batman movie, the 1989 Burton Batman movie, mostly because of my uncle, because my uncle was a huge Batman fan, and he got me excited. So he was excited to see it, so I was excited to see it with him, you know. I do remember Adam West's Batman. I do remember Batman, but I wasn't into the comic book at the time.
Yeah.
So, I think the Dark Knight Returns had kind of just dropped around that time.
Sure.
So there was a resurgence in the seriousness of Batman being serious. You know, I remember that was when Batman was starting to get dark again, you know, because he had spent a lot of time in the wilderness of campiness and ridiculousness. So them making a live action Batman movie, the 1989 movie, that was going to be a serious movie where he was going to wear body armor and be shot at by actual criminals, and not be making puns and quips and have shark repellent in his utility belt or anything like that, or have trouble getting rid of a bomb. We were like, oh wait, you're going to turn, you know, Batman was going to be like an event, like a Star Wars movie, you know, like this is going to be a real big thing.
Yeah.
So when Batman Returns came out, I remember looking around like, hey, is everybody excited? We're going to do this Batman thing again. And a lot of people were very skeptical, you know? And I remember I talked to a friend of mine, he saw it in the film and he was like, it's crap. You know, this film is ridiculous. I did not feel as badly about the film as he did.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of stuff in that film that it was mind-boggling. Like, Batman puts a piece of dynamite in a guy's belt and kicks him into a sewer.
Yeah.
And lets him blow up. And I'm like, wait a minute. He just killed that guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, too. And, I mean, this kind of goes hand in hand. Like, all of a sudden, just like in Batman v Superman, I mean, look, in Batman v Superman, he's killing people, like really brutally and just, like, pathologically.
Yes.
But you can kind of understand he's an older Batman. I get it. Like, maybe there's something we didn't see where he's
tired. He is supposed to be the Dark Knight Returns Batman, right?
Right. And so I'm not going to forgive it, but I can understand it. I understand where it's coming from. This one was, you know, like literally in the previous movie, he has a no-kill policy. So, I mean, you know, what happened between then and now?
I think so. I'm vaguely recalling him doing passes over with the Batwing, shooting at the Joker's men. So I might be. I watched Batman Returns for this, but I didn't watch Batman again, like the original Batman. I didn't watch them in succession again. But there was stuff in it that was just really strange. You know, there was stuff in it. I like the movie now, again, for a nostalgia beat of it being charming in comparison to how dark the series actually went in the Nolan years, and then how strange it got in the Snyder verse kind of Batman, with him in the future with bug people and whatever. So, I mean, Batman has gone off the rails quite a bit, quite frequently.
Right.
So this one is no strain. Keaton is my favorite Batman. So anything that he is in, I'm for it. But it is a strange movie. I'm not going to argue with you on that. There were a couple of times where I'm like, what am I watching? You know, it wasn't as bad as Batman and Robin. It didn't get to that level yet. But
Batman and Robin has, though, what this movie doesn't. Although actually, I like Christopher Walken's Max Schreck character. He's by far the most interesting part of this film. Danny DeVito as Penguin is repulsive. I know he's supposed to be repulsive, but it's, to me, his entire storyline it's just so friggin' weird that I can never truly embrace it. Whereas Christopher Walken, I get it. Like, he's a villain, and he's a cartoonish villain, but he's a villain, and he's even got the cartoonish villainous hair.
He's a corporate villain,
right?
Like, yeah,
right. But you know, like he's really good at, and he's good in this film. Like, he's actually probably the best part of this film. Michelle Pfeiffer's completely bonkers. I mean, just completely off the wall. There are people that revere this film as like this completely, you know, Art Deco, you know, dark noir Tim Burton film. I've watched other Tim Burton films. Yes, they are quirky and they have the same kind of aesthetics, but my God, it's not even close. Like, this thing is just so off the wall. It's off the rails. It's off the rails. It's off the rails.
All right, is that your assessment of the film? Is that your review?
Yeah. And Batman's not even really in this movie. Batman is like the side note in this movie. He has no purpose.
He does. But then that's the thing. That's the same thing with him in The Dark Knight. You know, there are some movies where it gets so outlandish with the villains, you know, and the schemes of the villains and stuff like that. That Batman himself actually just takes a back seat in his own movie while the film is establishing these other screwed up individuals who end up becoming his mortal enemies.
Yeah. I mean, I get Catwoman. I get what they were trying to do with her and how she had a thing to stop Batman because Selena Kyle in real life had to be saved by him, and Catwoman is this expression of you know, the total opposite of who Selena Kyle was and who she fantasized in being. This, you know, obviously she's wearing the bondage gear to be a dominatrix, to say that she can be in control of herself versus Selena Kyle, the lowly secretary who could never be in control of her own life. I get it. There is some depth to it, but it's just some of the dialogue.
Sometimes you get pushed out a window and become a supervillain.
Right.
Sometimes that happens.
Like, how does that happen? Like,
but sometimes, and then you get resurrected by cats, Catwoman. And then sometimes that happens.
And it's because I guess she got pushed out of a.
She got pushed out of a skyscraper.
No, I know.
And gets resurrected by cats.
I know.
And then drinks milk out of the container, which is, you know, that's a big no-no.
One thing I didn't quite understand either is, upon rewatching this film, she went to Max Schreck's offices, which looked like a giant cat for some reason. Don't know why.
Of course it does. It's a Tim Burton movie.
She goes there because she forgot this file for tomorrow. So it's within the same night where she gets pushed out the window, becomes Catwoman, comes back. But before she goes there, she checks her answering machine, and there's a whole bunch of messages. That's how she instructs herself to go back to the office. She says, Selena, this is a message for yourself. And kids, this is answering machines. It's exciting. She gets back that night, and she has more messages. Like, as in the span of an hour, her mom calls her back 3 times, and the same perfume company that had called her that day left another voicemail. So for some reason, telemarketers had no bounds. At 11 o'clock at night, they're calling you.
Oh my God, you're getting hung up on that.
I'm not getting hung up. These are just things I noticed. These are things that I just noticed. And I'm sitting there just marveling at the absurdity of it. Maybe that's why people love it so much, because there is a cult. It has a cult following of people that really think it's I mean, even on my Facebook feed, you know, people were commenting that it's a good movie, and I'm like, I don't think it's a good movie. I really don't. Like,
I didn't say it wasn't
not a good
movie.
Batman movie.
I say it's a strange movie, but I don't necessarily agree with that. But it's a good Batman movie for that genre of Batman. You know, I mean, he does things in that movie.
Yeah, oh yeah, like
I mean, he did murder someone, but I mean, he also does
strapping
other
bombs
things.
on people, flamethrower. You know, he used his.
I didn't say
I didn't say
he was a proper Batman, but he was at least a hero in the context of the film that he was in. He did things. He was effective to an extent. Yeah. Yes, we did say he was somewhat sidelined so that they could establish the Penguin and the Catwoman, who had these elaborate, origin stories.
Yeah, I mean, it was really something. I mean, really something. So
that's your review. That's your final. It was really something. That's your take on it.
I think the baffled expression on my face after rewatching this last night is all you need to see. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, I have an incredulous look when even just conjuring up images from this film as to how, in any way, shape, or form, this could be considered even a remotely good film.
All right.
I like Tim Burton a lot. I do. I love Beetlejuice. I think Beetlejuice is great. Nightmare Before Christmas. That's great. Fantastic. The original Batman. Amazing. Like, Tim Burton, Edward Scissorhands. Yeah, awesome. This one is it's just weird. But hey, don't take my word for it. I actually did some research as well, too. Take that, Steve Ovecki. Where I actually looked on Den of Geek. Well, you remember he came in with the Temple of Doom, and he had all this research, and you wanted.
Yeah, he was very prepared for that.
Very prepared. Den of Geek did a Batman Returns article and about how it actually came to life. And originally, Batman 2 was going to be written by Sam Hamm. He did get a credit for this film, but it's not his script. And they talk about they go into great detail about this actually too. Apparently, Sam Hamm hinted to Comic Scene that he really wanted to explore how heroic D.A. Harvey Dent, played by the unflappable Billy D. Williams, became the tragically deranged Two-Face. However, Warner Brothers had other ideas. Based off the popularity of Burgess Meredith's performance in the Batman CV series, they insisted Penguin be the big bad. Further, both Hamm and Burton had a thing for Catwoman. They really wanted the Penguin, he explained, because they sort of saw
the trend of that started the inescapable trend of two villains per Batman movie,
and thoughts
3 actually,
right, and just thoughts of Spider-Man 3, where this is the exact same situation that happened, where the director's like, Sam Raimi's like, I want Sandman. I think Venom's stupid. We want Venom. All right, I'll put him in there and make him really stupid. Like that's essentially what.
And destroy the franchise.
Right. The result of this was 2 drafts Hamm turned in for Batman 2, which would have been made for a very different film than that was what was unwrapped in 1992. Literally continuing the first storyline from 1988's Batman screenplay, 1989 film. It would have been a direct follow-up. The Batman sequel had the doldrums of holiday cheer, the blanket of snow, and Christmas wreaths. They were more of a decorative ornamentation around Batman, and the story feels like a direct expansion. Bruce Wayne, still dating Vicky Vale, and even engaged to her by the end. He's fighting criminals of the same cartoon noir decadence as Jack Nicholson's Joker. There was, I guess, a Santa Claus with an AK-47. It would have been kind of interesting, I guess, there. It might have been an interesting film since it would have carried over many more of the elements from the 89 experience. The villains were psychotic and violent, but they were not freaks in the patented Tim Burton way. The Penguin is a small-time criminal with a penchant for birds. Selena Kyle is a highly sexualized vamp that she's usually portrayed as in the comics, albeit turned up to 11. Her costume is literally described as bondage gear, and she has no qualms about massacring large groups of men with assault rifles with her own claws. This is the Batman 2 film that never happened.
Yeah.
It further attempted to bring the title character back to its comic book roots. Bruce Wayne is more of the protagonist than he ended up being in the finished film, and one who has developed a strict no-kill policy. The story is also haphazardly about Bruce Wayne.
But he developed it because of this story, then apparently, right? He was like, all right, I'm going to stop killing people because that might be bad. That might be construed as bad.
Yeah. Now, the funny thing is, the screenplay that was turned in, Burton was severely disappointed and would not sign on the dotted line unless he could make a Tim Burton film, as opposed to a direct Batman sequel. And that's essentially what he did. He liked Daniel Waters, who ended up co-writing the screenplay. Tim and I had never had a conversation about what are the fans of comic books going to think. We never thought about them. We were really just about the art. Make no mistake, I'm not knocking this because it's not doing fan service and it's not giving us the Batman from the comics, especially in 1992, where that version of Batman had been altered so many times in the comics anyway. You can pick and choose which version of Batman you want. So there's no, it's not like, wow, you have to do this or have to do that mentality. So make no mistake, my review has nothing to do with that. But this one really went into the profile of Batman, Catwoman. What is Penguin? I mean, the result is turning Penguin into a tragic figure, as freakish as Batman, and they kind of go back and forth throughout the film about that. I mean, it's really, other changes, distancing itself from Batman's strict no-kill policy. Instead, Batman literally murders many, many people in Batman Returns. Some purists would say, and this is what Waters said in a 2005 Batman Returns special feature, some purists would say Batman would never kill people, but I would always say we don't live in a time where you can drop criminals off in front of City Hall in a net. The times are darker, so you have to make your character darker. 5 drafts.
There's some logic to that. I don't know if he's
there
right.
Is.
But
I know.
There's logic to it.
Waters ultimately wrote 5 drafts. Max Schreck was initially Billy D. Williams' Harvey Dent. And in a later draft, Schreck became the Penguin's long-lost brother, a secret cobblepot. I mean, even Robin made an appearance in one of the drafts. However, he described Robin as the most worthless character in the world. So, Robin was they got rid of that. And instead, they made a Christmas Time in Hell film. So.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. I remember the Christmas motif, too, was a big deal because the bat symbol, the promos, the teasers or whatever had the bat symbol, had like a bank of snow and the snow gets blown away and it reveals a bat symbol. And that was kind of a big visual for the film. It was a visual language of the film. It's going to be in the wintertime. It's going to be in Christmas, Christmas backdrop. Yeah. Which was another nostalgia thing, which is another trend at the time, making a lot of these crazy movies seasonal, like Die Hard and Lethal Weapon took place during Christmas. And a lot of those movies around that time, for some reason, they had a big deal, a big thing about having their movies take place in the backdrop of a tremendous seasonal event. Yeah. Most of the time, it being Christmas, the biggest holiday season we have in our society.
Yeah. Comment in the feed. Tell me why I'm crazy for thinking this movie is just as bad as I remember. And
I don't think it was bad.
You don't think it's bad?
I think it's got its own place. I think it's its own thing. I think it was crazy, but it doesn't necessarily mean I don't necessarily feel it was bad.
All right, tell me why you think I'm crazy in the Facebook feed. This is
tell Dolce why you think he's crazy.
This was horrible. And that's
you
all I got.
feel it was horrible. I get you.
That's all I got.
Yeah.
All right, when we come back, we go spinning the racks. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. Go to facebook.com/Rogue Wave podcast to stream us every Wednesday. Go to roguewavepodcast.com to subscribe and download the show on all major podcasting apps. We are big fanboys of comics and graphic novels, and every week we like to bring you the inside info. What's that?
1 second. My lawyer has requested that you stop calling me a disruptor on the air.
You're not a disruptor.
You just said we're the disruptors behind the pop culture.
That's
you just made
you
the whole
individually.
But I'm part of it. I'm part of the disruption.
Well, yeah.
Fine.
I would think so.
Spin the racks.
We call this spinning the racks.
Spin that rack. I'm sorry.
Bill and Ted Are Doomed in prequel comic. We talked about this. This was actually reported among by Comics Beat. We talked about Bill and Ted Face the Music. The trailer came out, and I referenced a long-lost Evan Dorkin series at Marvel, edited by Fabian Nicieza, by the way. And
friend of the show.
And it won an Eisner. So what better thing to do than to reunite everyone? So it's never been a better time to be a Bill and Ted fan. Just when you thought the trailer released was the only thing to get you pumped for the Wild Stallions reunion, Dark Horse announced a new official prequel comic, Bill and Ted Are Doomed, featuring the involvement of not only the franchise co-creator Ed Solomon, but also comic creator Evan Dorkin, alongside artist Roger Landridge. Anyone familiar with Dorkin's career know this isn't the first rodeo in the Bill and Ted's franchise. After getting first tipping his toe, that's just terrible grammar.
Wow.
Comic Speed.
Yeah.
I'm terrible. After getting first tipping his toe with the Bill and Ted Bogus Journey comic adaptation from Marvel, Dorkin would then go on to write and draw Bill and Ted's excellent comic book ongoing series and was nominated for an Eisner Award in the category of Best Humor Comic.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Were you a Bill and Ted fan at all?
Yeah, I like the movie.
The first one or the second one? Or both?
No, the first one. The second one, I feel like I feel like every 80s movie just had a subpar sequel to it.
Oh, okay. All right. Please continue with your.
Right? Like, wouldn't you agree?
No,
like,
I would not agree with you.
What's an example of an 80s franchise that had a better sequel? Temple of Doom, you could argue, because we did argue that. But,
Temple of Doom, Empire Strikes Back.
All right, Empire Strikes Back, yes.
Die Hard.
Empire Strikes Back was.
Die Hard 2 was comparable to the first one. It was not better, but it was comparable.
I think Empire Strikes Back is the only instance.
That was your opinion that it's no. Empire Strikes Back, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Star Trek 2.
Okay, I like that. Ghostbusters 2 is not better than the first film.
No, Ghostbusters 2. I would, but
Die Hard 2 is not even close to Die Hard.
There's no.
Die Hard 3 is better than Die Hard 2.
You're filibustering. 4. Stop filibustering. There is no. We didn't say better. You said
subpar.
We didn't say that these sequels would be better than the original, but they're on par with the original.
No, subpar.
No, disagree and fine.
Bill and Ted 2 is
it's fine. It's a good movie. It's not. It is not. That is an opinion. That is not a statement of fact for both of us.
Correct.
You are making it a statement of fact,
yes,
as if both of us feel that way, but you are incorrect.
I am merely speaking truth.
No, you're not. You're speaking your opinion. That is not the truth. That is how you feel. That is a difference. There is a difference. Admit there's a difference. No, do not.
Early 90s sequels were cash grabs and was reflected.
Oh my God. You and your generalization. Why are you even in this industry? You have no love for any of the stuff in it.
To make the first. I don't want to stick around for the second.
So Aliens. Okay.
All right. Aliens is good. Aliens
is good. Aliens is good. My God.
Aliens could arguably be better than the original.
My God. Yeah, this from the guy who didn't think that Jaws was a decent summer blockbuster.
No, I thought it was a great summer blockbuster. I just didn't think it was in our wheelhouse.
Yeah, how could it not be in a pop culture wheelhouse to be the very first summer blockbuster?
Or sci-fi wheelhouse.
You said comics, TVs, movies, pop culture. That is in the descriptor. It doesn't specify comics pop culture. It says pop culture in general.
A blanket term to allow us the flexibility.
Yeah, parsing. Now you're parsing.
Whether or not a film like Jaws is something that we would.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. You continue, my friend, to be wrong.
Are you excited? Excellent. Are you excited about the Bill and Ted comic? Are you going to read the Bill and Ted comic?
I would read the Bill and Ted comic. I would read the heck out of it. And however you can read the heck out of anything, I would read the heck out of it.
It's a prequel,
I would make sure I was not merely reading, but reading the heck out of it.
Yeah. Merrily. All right, next week, Big announcements, surprise guests. We finally get to tell you why we ended up switching the name to Rogue Wave and what Rogue Wave is and all the wonderful rebranding stuff we got. We got a surprise mystery guest. We've got Umbrella Academy versus Doom Patrol. We're going to do a little rundown on those guys. It's going to be awesome. You should be here. Stay tuned. We will see you next week. Rogue Wave.